Hello, all. Today's live session is going to be about the evolutionary history of Indian wolf, as is seen on the screen. I'll just stop sharing this for now. Thank you, Nishant. And so today's session is going to be about the evolutionary history of Indian wolf. And the session is going to be based on a recent groundbreaking study done by researcher Lauren Hennelly, who is soon going to join us on this live session. I'll just be inviting her. And my name is Vishwatej Pawar. I'm your host for today. I'm representing the team, the Grasslands Trust. Did Lauren to join the live session? Hi there. Hello, Lauren. Good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you.
Super. So, guys, Lauren is joining us early morning from the US. It's I think around 6:45 right now.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Lauren, for joining us today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
That's great. I'll just quickly introduce you to the viewers. So, guys, Lauren is currently a PhD candidate in the Mammalian Ecology and Conservation Unit at University of California, Davis, USA. And her study found that the Indian wolf is one of the world's most endangered and evolutionarily distinct gray wolf populations. The study also indicates that the Indian wolf represents the most ancient surviving lineage of wolves. So, along with these interesting things, there are a lot of more facts which Lauren will reveal in this session. So, I'm really looking forward to asking loads of questions to her.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And just one is interesting fact about Lauren and our team. In 2015, Lauren had come down to Pune in our city to work on one of her projects when the Grasslands Trust team got a chance to work with her. My teammates still remember and talk about observing wolves along with pups early in the morning that winter day. Do you remember that too, Lauren?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like finding the puppies was super surprising, and that was like probably one of the most memorable like times I was in India.
Right.
To like hear the wolf howls and they like came closer and we got to see them. Yeah, it was like super exciting.
And I think Mihir Godbole, our trustee, he was the one coordinating all the field stuff for you guys. I remember him telling us how interesting it was for you to interact with locals here in Maharashtra and setting up things on field.
Yeah, I remember like that. That was like amazing that he was there, because setting up the logistics by myself would have been really, really hard. But yeah, I remember like, different things. Like I remember we saw like a hyena, because I played hyena noises because I was playing wolf howls. So I played hyena noises and they were like spotted hyenas, and the striped hyena was super curious. And it like came closer to us, and there was like a local with us, and I gave him my binoculars, and so I like showed him how to use it and everything. So it was like, it was really cool.
Amazing. I'm sure the locals still remember you. I think there was also some forest department staff working with you on that project.
Yeah, there was,
Yeah. Super. So I'll jump on with I'll start with the questions.
Yeah, sounds
about
good.
the study.
Yeah.
So what was your reaction when you finally found out that the Indian wolf is the oldest lineage in its kind.
Yeah, I was really surprised. For the Indian wolf, it has, before the study was done, it had the least amount of genetic information known about the wolf. So I, like, compared to the Tibetan wolf, like, because the Tibetan wolf is another distinct wolf, but there had been a few studies done on that lineage at the time. So it was kind of clear, like, okay, the Tibetan wolf is like this distinct wolf, but for the Indian wolf, there's only one study done 20 years ago, and it was like on a really small piece of its genome, and that kind of wasn't enough information to like conclusively say what was going on, but was indicating that the wolf was different. So then that's where we came in and we sequenced the full genome of the Indian wolf. And so it was like a mystery on what I was going to find. And like finding that the Indian wolf was so distinct, I like didn't quite believe it at first. But then I kept doing different analyses, and a lot of these analyses were kept pointing to the Indian wolf being the most distinct wolf, and like even more distinct than the Tibetan wolf. Wow. So yeah, so then that was really the evidence for that the Indian wolf was like so distinct. And then we wrote it up into a paper, and we're doing more research on it as well. But yeah, I was very surprised.
Wow, that's amazing. So the next question, gray wolves are the ancestors to the dogs living in our homes today. But how do Indian wolves fit into that story?
Yeah, I mean, that's something we're shedding light on now, and it is like a very interesting story. So I wanted to show a picture, but I don't see the picture.
Oh yeah, that's gone off because I think there's two of us in the session right now. Yeah.
All right, that's all right. I can explain.
All right.
Yeah. So to like understand the wolf story, there's like a little background about kind of very quick recap on wolf evolution. That's very interesting. So for gray wolves, there are 3 major lineages of wolves, and a lineage is kind of like saying like a type of wolf, or like even like a stock of wolf. So for all the wolves in the world, there's so many. There's 3 major types of wolves, and that's the one called the Holarctic wolf, which is found in North America, northern Eurasia. It's found in the Middle East. And then there's the Tibetan wolf that's found only on the Tibetan Plateau. And then the Indian wolf, which is found, what we think is only in the Indian subcontinent. So you can think like it's really amazing that out of all these 3 wolves, one is super widely spread, and the 2 other ones are only found in these very small regions right next to each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for dogs, dogs were domesticated from the Holarctic wolf, and a wolf like similar to the Holarctic wolf. So that means like Indian wolves and Tibetan wolves didn't really play a huge role in dog domestication. Yeah, and then also what we're finding too is kind of a little bit more about the history of Indian wolves. What we think is Indian wolves were in the Indian subcontinent for a really long time. And that kind of allowed them to diverge into a unique wolf or a unique lineage. That's kind of going back to the Pleistocene, when there were many glaciers. And
wow, that's long back.
Yeah, very long, like hundreds of, tens of thousands of years ago. And at that time, like the Himalayas, you can imagine, were covered in glaciers. And the Tibetan Plateau was covered in glaciers. So for the Tibetan wolf, it's thought that it was kind of stuck in what's called the glacial refugia. on one side, and then the Indian wolf, what we're finding is that it was likely kind of stuck in the Indian subcontinent, along with, there were also like rhinos there at the time, like in this glacial refugia, and elephants. And then all the other wolves, like they just, it's thought, they just kind of expanded out, like humans, like to North America and stuff. But the Indian wolf and the Tibetan wolf were isolated for a long time. So it just makes Indian wolves so unique because they were, out of all the wolves in the world, there's so many, there's only 3 types, and the Indian wolf is one of those types that has a unique history of being stuck in the Indian subcontinent. So it was so it's like a cool like mystery that we're figuring out with the Indian wolf. For gray wolves.
That's amazing, because I'm sure none of us have ever heard about all these things. It's amazing to get to know these facts revealed by you.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. So
yeah, you can think too, like, the wolves are found in the grasslands there, and likely like wolves have been in those grasslands for, thousands and thousands of years. They're not just, it seems like they're not just kind of, they just got to the grasslands, like maybe lions kind of are thought to come out of Africa and kind of reach the grasslands in India. But for wolves, it might be a very different story, where they have been in those grasslands for a long time.
Amazing. They were always there, probably.
Yeah, for thousands and thousands of years.
Amazing. So I'm just thinking of like a layperson trying to understand some of the words used by researchers. Like, for example, just to define a word which could sound like a jargon for some of our viewers, what is a genome, and what role has it played in your study about the Indian wolf?
Yeah, that is a great question. That's something I didn't know before, like going to grad school. Like, what is the difference of a genome and genetics? But yeah, a genome is all of the genetic information that makes up an individual. So like for humans, you can imagine like the chromosomes, and humans have 23. So those 23 chromosomes make up like most of the genome of humans. There's only the mitochondria that's out there, but like, yeah, the chromosomes are like most of the human genome. So for the study then, we sequenced the entire genome. So we had all of the genetic information about, these wolves, 4 wolves. So that really allowed us to answer these evolutionary questions that were like, we are able to answer these evolutionary questions very robustly because we had all of this information rather than just like a very small piece. And just to like kind of talk about how much information there is. So like the study that was done before in 20 years ago on Indian wolves, that was done on around like called 200 base pairs, which a base pair is like the ATGCs. So what we did is that we sequenced the whole genome, and that gave us 2.5 billion base pairs. Whoa. So yeah. So it was like it's almost like unimaginable how much the amount of data that makes up that, and then like kind of figuring out what all that means, how the wolves are like other wolves. But this study was like really good, to just get the whole genome and just like really figure out what's going on, and then that's what we did.
Amazing. It's all new for my ears, so I'm still grasping it all.
Yeah.
Very nice. So many of our viewers will be interested in the next question, I'm sure. Being a female researcher in the field of wildlife biology and conservation, what would you like to say to our viewers, especially to the women who are planning to take up this field of study?
Yeah, that's like a really good question. And, you know, when I saw it, like when I was thinking about this question, I thought about it for quite a long time.
Uh,
But yeah, so wildlife biology and conservation, there are a lot more male researchers than female researchers. And especially in like senior positions. So like as a professor, you know, like professor. So like, you know, if you're a female researcher interested in wildlife, your professors are probably all male when you go to school. And that's true like in the US, and that's true in India and in Pakistan as well, where I work. But I think like thinking about, you know, like even like as kids, like a lot of kids are interested in nature, whether or not they're male or female. But I think growing up, like especially as a girl, there's little things kind of sometimes like in society that usher you away from wildlife biology.
mm-hmm.
So like for me, I was always super motivated to study wolves and like to do wildlife biology and to do science. And that was always stronger than a lot of the challenges I faced associated with being like a woman in the field. So like when I have male field assistants, like there's a level of trust that I have to have that maybe like if I was a male researcher, I don't have to have. And then traveling like as a foreigner and a woman in India and Pakistan also has its challenges and like also like risks. So like those were kind of a lot, but I was always like but I didn't like etch away from my motivation to like get out in the field.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So, and kind of like specifically like my study too, like it required a lot of statistics and a lot of like coding skills, and that can be really intimidating. And I think like sometimes we learn, or like there's a false notion that like even like, you know, boys are better than coding and like math than girls are. And I think like that can kind of etch away at confidence sometimes. Like I was really intimidated to do the genomic study, and I had to like, I was like, but I want to do it. And I kind of tried to build up my confidence, and I worked really hard. But I think for like women, especially, just like almost keeping in mind your motivation, almost like protecting your motivation from these risks and challenges that can kind of diminish your like experience in the field. And then also just having like remembering like your abilities and like confidence to do wildlife biology in the field, and just kind of reminding yourself that like I can do this.
Amazing.
So,
I think it's yeah, this is a very, very good piece of advice by Lauren. Thanks, Lauren, for that.
Yeah.
So I'll just jump to the next question. So do you think that the wolves in the Indian subcontinent can be genetically distinguished as subspecies since they are biogeographically isolated? Example, gray wolves in India versus gray wolves in Iran or Turkey.
Yeah, I think what we're finding is there's enough evidence to back that up, that wolves in the Indian subcontinent are genetically different and they're distinguished from these other wolves in Iran and in Turkey. Right now, all the wolves from India to Iran and Turkey, they're all considered as the same subspecies, which is Canis lupus palpus. However, our genomic information shows that wolves in like Turkey and Syria and Iran, they're all more similar to wolves in Europe and in wolves of Central Asia than wolves in India. So yeah, so like the next step, what's needed is like to figure out the taxonomy of the wolves now, because
Right.
current taxonomy doesn't reflect what is on the ground with the wolves, like what's going on with their genomics, even like how they move through the landscape. Like it looks like they're not the same population throughout
Hmm.
India to the West Asia.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah.
Wow. It's a very, very big finding. And so what's the difference between Tibetan and Himalayan wolves, or is it just the distinct names which add to this confusion?
Yeah, wolves have a bad track record of like bad names, I think. um, so, and it's similar with this case. So there is no difference between the Tibetan and Himalayan or Himalayan wolf.
Thank you.
Okay, does that help?
Thanks for clearing that up. Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah. The Himalayan wolf, actually, that name came about because the study that first found the Tibetan Himalayan wolves being distinct was from a wolf in Spiti.
Mhm.
So then they named it Himalayan wolf. But this wolf is found across the Tibetan plateau. Like it's not just found in the Himalayas. And wolves up there already were called Tibetan wolves. So
All
then,
right.
people are like, oh, Tibetan wolves, but then like Himalayan wolves. But they
All
all
right.
refer to the same wolf. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Wolves.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for clearing that up. Finally. Um, so what were the kind of challenges you faced while working on field?
Yeah. Yeah, there were quite a few challenges. My study for the first study on the howls of the wolves, you can imagine that was challenging because to do that, we had to be in the presence of a wolf to then record it. It wasn't just like kind of walking around and finding scats or signs of wolves. So for that, I spent a lot of time in the field finding wolves, especially like in Ladakh. That was
Uh-huh.
especially challenging. Um, and then for the genomic study, I worked in both India and Pakistan.
Mhm.
And for that, like, working in a new country, there's like a lot of things that you have to figure out. So I met with a lot of different researchers there
Uh-huh.
studying wolves, which was fun, but hard to track down everyone to get meetings. And then also just figuring out the logistics of sequencing all these samples. In Pakistan, we ended up exporting the samples, but then, this required a ton of permits, like from
Oh,
the local government. We had to go to the ministry to get a permit. We had to go to the US government and kind of just, it took like a year, I think, to do all of that. And then with the pandemic too, like that was also a delay. So yeah, it took a while, but definitely worth it to all the challenges.
wow. Interesting. That's very interesting. Um, can you share the most remarkable or memorable moment while working through this journey around wolves?
Yeah. So I thought about this too. I think for me, the most memorable was way when I first went to Ladakh to record the wolf howls.
Hmm.
And we went in the winter, like near winter. So it was like October. Um, and that was my first field, going out into the field for that study. So I really didn't know how difficult it was to find the wolves or like if I would find them. And then when you get to Ladakh, I don't know if maybe people have been to Ladakh. Have you been to Ladakh?
I haven't, but I'm sure
Oh,
many of
okay.
the viewers have.
Yeah, because when you get there and you look across the landscape, it's just like there's no trees. It's just so expansive. And when I got there, I'm like, how am I gonna find a wolf? Because like, because you look out and you can just see for miles, and it's like empty, and it just seems impossible, like that you're gonna find a wolf there. But for me, like I took a strategy of where I camped in the same place in a tent, and every morning and evening I would play wolf howls. So usually on like around the second or third day, I would hear the wolves howling, like they were passing by and they heard the howls, and then they would respond. And they thought I was like a wolf because they didn't know I was playing howls. You know, they thought that there were wolves in their territory. So they would always like come up, kind of like they would come investigate. So like the first time was like very memorable because I like couldn't believe I heard the wolf howls. And then like
Wow.
we ran over there and we saw like the wolves, and I was like, yeah, it was the best day.
Amazing, amazing.
Yeah, it was worth the cold nights in the tent.
Oh, what was the temperature like at that time?
It was cold. So at night our water froze, I remember.
Oh,
So it's below zero at night. Yeah.
wow.
I remember waking up and like having to thaw our water.
God, it's tremendous hard work.
Yeah, it was very cold.
Amazing. Um, this is the next question is interesting for our teammates as well from the Grasslands Trust. So,
Mm.
how was your experience of working with our team, the Grasslands Trust team, when you were down in Pune?
Oh yeah, it was very exciting, and it was exactly what like it helped the research so much by working with Mihir and everyone else at the Grasslands Trust. And I think those were the early years of the Grasslands Trust. Like you guys were
Yes.
just started. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think back then we weren't even called the Grasslands Trust.
Yeah, I think it was Project Wolf,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Our group actually didn't even have a name, but yeah, at that point.
Yeah, I remember, I mean, it was very exciting, like, I mean, meeting people who were interested in like the wolves in Pune. And yeah, like Mihir helped so much. And just like your team knew a lot about where the wolves were in Pune, like outside of Pune.
Right.
So that was like so helpful. Because otherwise I worked in the Great Indian Bustard Sanctuary, but that's like one site, but like it's so much better to have, you know,
Right.
multiple sites. And it ended up like, yeah, we recorded the wolves. We like saw the wolves out in the field. And then the howl study was then took up by Sogato. I guess you met
Yeah.
Sogato.
Yes, yes, Shagato, yes.
Yeah, Sogato. And then he ended up doing his PhD on the wolf howl study. He like took it a lot further. So like that, so it's like that visit and like working with the Grasslands Trust was so productive because it led to like so many years of like more research with Sogato, but then also you guys helped with getting the wolf samples that we sequenced because they were the radio colored wolves.
Yes, those were exciting times for our team. We thoroughly enjoyed the process of radio calling with Bilal and his team. It was amazing.
Were you out there then too?
Yes, I was there. I was there for the initial three wolves.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah,
I'll
that was
just
yeah.
Sorry, I'll just quickly check if Mihir is here and if he can join in for a few seconds. Mihir Godbole. I've
Yeah.
just invited him. Let's see if he can join in.
Okay. Yeah, because the wolf, we sequenced 4 wolves, and I think two of those wolves came from the radio-collared, I mean, all came from the radio-collared wolf. One was from outside of Pune, and then
Right.
the 3 others, I think, were from around the Great Indian Bustard Sanctuary. Yeah, but those samples really allowed us to sequence the genome because they were like so fresh. Otherwise, it's really hard to get samples.
Right. Is Mihir here? I don't think Mihir's here yet. All right, let's head on with the next question. So, according to you, what would be?
Hello.
Oh, there he is. Hi, Mihir.
Hi guys.
I'm here.
Good to see you after so long.
I know. Yeah, I know. I would have liked to come to India, but COVID.
Yeah, I hope the regulations will get off soon and you can come here and we can continue the work that we were doing.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, we were just talking about like all the experiences, like on that first trip in 2015.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome and it was first time work, so we did everything first time, really.
Yeah, and I was like, because I remember it was like, yeah, the early days of like the NGO too.
Yeah.
That it wasn't even called the Grasslands Trust.
No, it was called something else back then.
Yeah, and I was saying too, like the howl study was like, it was such a productive trip because Sogato ended up taking all that howl study like so much further.
Further, yeah.
Yeah.
And before your study, we never heard wolves howl, so we were so skeptical that they would reply back. And I remember in the morning you messaged me that I got the first howl recording, and I just read your message, and that also felt so exciting at that point of time.
Yeah, I know. There's information online about Indian wolves, and it said Indian wolves rarely howl. And I think that's wrong. I don't know who came up with that.
Yeah, actually.
You're working with was like, okay, Indian wolves rarely howl. But they howled all the time. Like
they howled all the time. Yeah, that was pretty surprising because even before your survey, we were watching them for quite some time. And we had only got one wolf howling, which the recording I shared with you. But that's it. We did not see them howling before that. And if you remember, we tried to record some howls in zoo itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even though those wolves were not responding at all. Maybe they were under distress, but they were not responding at all.
Yeah, that was a kind of sad part that I found out with the zoos. Like some wolves howled, but yeah, a lot. Indian wolves didn't howl in the zoos.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like we found the wolf puppies, which was so exciting.
Yeah.
It ended up being like a good method kind of to like when we played the wolf howls, the wolves, they responded, but like a lot of times they came to like investigate what was going on. So we got to see them.
Yeah. So I'll let you guys continue the session. I'm out right now, so we all will catch up.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Continue. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining me. Thanks.
Yeah. Cool.
So I'll continue with the next question now. So according to you, what would be the ideal methodology to estimate the existing population of the Indian wolf? Now, this is a big question.
That's a big question.
Yeah.
And it's important because there's not really a lot or any information about, where Indian wolves are found in India. Like there's wolves in West Bengal, but like kind of what's going on between there. is like unknown, I think, like
Yeah.
spotted information about where wolves are. Yeah, I think people, viewers are probably familiar with the tiger surveys, where with Wildlife Institute of India, where they use camera
Yeah.
traps. Yeah. But with wolves, like, you can't individually identify wolves based off of the camera traps. It's really hard. Whereas like tigers, they have the stripes, and like you can kind of piece together like the pattern of the stripes to like the individual. But wolves, like, can't really do that.
Yeah.
So I think like with wolves being so rare, a good methodology, I mean, includes multiple, but one key aspect I think would be like using genetics. And you can get DNA from the poop of the wolf, which is called scat.
Yeah.
And there's actually DNA, that's left outside, like on the scat, that you can sequence. And that information can tell you can individually identify wolves by just having the scat. You can figure out who the scat belongs to. You can find out how the wolves in the pack are related to each other if you kept at collecting the scats. And you can figure out how you can start to piece together a map of even like how the wolf populations are genetically connected across India. Wow. So with that survey, like, for estimating the population, especially the individually identifying wolves, is what would be like a really good knowledge to have, to like be 100% certain to like with individually identifying wolves. So I think like genetics holds a lot of promise with that. And in India, like there are, like at the Wildlife Institute of India, I think like NCBI has wildlife genetics labs. So, and then also other survey methods like, Sogato worked on howl surveys, which like, so it's good, like, multiple methodologies to figure out how many wolves are in an area. But genetics, I think, is definitely like a really helpful tool. So maybe, someone can take that up.
Yeah, I hope so. We are looking forward to it. So, Lauren, you have also been studying Indian wolves in Pakistan. Could you tell us information about the Indian wolf population size in Pakistan and what kind of threats and conflicts there are to the Indian wolf in Pakistan?
Yeah. So there are Indian wolves, you can imagine, across the border. So they're in Sindh and they're in Punjab in Pakistan. And in Baluchistan, we're not quite sure if it's the Indian wolf or if it's the other wolf that's found in West Asia. So there's a lot of unknowns, which is very interesting. Like, how far does this divergent lineage go west?
Right.
But for Pakistan, one thing is there's not a lot of research done on the wolves, especially for the Indian wolf. But what when I talk to conservationists in Pakistan, they do all kind of agree that the wolves are declining, and especially the Indian wolf in Sindh and in Punjab. There was one report in 2004 that said there were only 200 wolves left in Pakistan, which is very small. But then there's another study in Gilgit-Baltistan that said there were around 400 wolves there, but they estimated that 60 wolves were being killed each year from like illegal poaching and retaliatory killings. So it's really unknown, which is kind of scary because you don't know, the trend on like how much these wolves are declining. And then also what I've kind of observed and talked to when I talk to people working on wolves in Pakistan, one thing is like, it seems like there's fewer dogs. So I think dogs don't quite pose the same threat to wolves in Pakistan compared to India.
That's interesting.
But I was like I was very interested that there are not as many dogs around. And then also I think there are a few cases that I see online or that I hear about of illegal poaching or of selling wolf puppies or like wolf dog hybrids. So there might be motivation to like take wolves from the wild and then, a market for them. But that needs to be more explored as well. So I think slightly different threats to Indian wolves in Pakistan versus India. But and then of course like more research is would be really helpful to then guide these conservation efforts for Indian wolves in Pakistan.
Yeah, it's so interesting. For us, it's completely unknown territory. We've never actually even thought of studying or trying to understand about the wolf population across the border.
Yeah, and I think especially like maybe in Sindh and in Rajasthan, that they might move across the border there, or in Gujarat and Sindh. So maybe the populations are connected, but I don't know. I've never been over there, and there's not a lot of research on the wolves in the Pakistan side there.
Right. Do you plan to still continue your research over there?
Yeah, I'm really. I have applied to do more studies on wolves, especially in Pakistan. There are just a lot of questions, especially these different types of wolves all meet there. All three types of wolves are found in Pakistan. Right. Where in India there's two of them. There's the Tibetan wolf and the Indian wolf.
And the Indian.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really interesting what's going on there with wolves. And then also there's so many unknowns. So it's been really fun to work with Pakistani scientists on getting out papers, helping work together on publishing some of these findings about Indian wolves there.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think I'd actually jotted down the next question, which was about dog ancestry. But I think you've already answered that there isn't enough link between the Indian wolf and the ancestry of the dog.
Yeah, and also when we looked at the Indian wolf genomes, surprisingly I thought we'd find more dog genes in the Indian wolf because there's so many dogs around. Right. But we actually didn't find any significant dog genes, from if that Indian wolf was breeding with a dog, because there's so many dogs. And we didn't find any more dog in the Indian wolf than in other wolves of the world. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
And maybe if there is dog wolf hybrids out there, dog Indian wolf hybrids, maybe they don't survive to breed, or maybe the wolves that we sequence just happen to not have dog in them. But
because I remember, interestingly, our team and even some other photographers from around Pune have spotted a brownish colored wolf, which almost looks like a dog, but we don't know what it is. And we've also seen that particular wolf to be one of the breeding pairs of a pack with pups around it. So it is very interesting.
Yeah.
To see that.
Yeah, I know. That's what's, I think maybe, dogs haven't, like, maybe dogs are, they've increased a lot, but more relatively recently. So like maybe, if we sequence more wolves, we would see like a lot of dog in them, but it's just kind of like patchy because like some areas, maybe there's not a lot of wolves, so they have to bring dogs. Yeah. But that's something that is like, would be a great study to do, is like, like, what on
it's
those
so
farms.
intriguing that there's so much to know about. Like it's not just one topic. There's so many perspectives to it.
Yeah.
So much you can think of.
Yeah.
So what research projects on Indian wolves do you have going on currently?
Yeah. So one is we're kind of doing a side project. This is also with Shivam Kshatriya, who's like at the Wildlife Institute, and also the Grasslands Trust contributed data. But that's on looking at the timing of birth of puppies for gray wolves and comparing that to like wolves around the world. And so Indian wolves, they give birth super early in the year. I think you probably have seen the puppies, like, they give birth in like January and in February.
Right.
But like, if you looked at like Arctic wolves, they give birth in May. And Yellowstone wolves give birth in like mid-April. Same as like European wolves, they give birth in like April. So Indian wolves have this like really unique like trait that like they give birth very early in the year, which is probably like an adaptation to the environment. But that's something we're working on, but it's like a side project. So trying to make progress on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
and then,
interesting.
And then we're also just kind of exploring more like genomics questions. Like one thing is like looking at what like genes in Indian wolves that are important for adaptation. Like, Indian wolves have they have short fur. They might have special adaptations for living in hot weather. So we're kind of exploring that right now. Yeah. So kind of dig.
It's a whole new world out there.
Yeah. There's so many questions to answer. Yeah. So that's just two of like questions.
Very nice. So this is the last question from my side for you.
Yeah.
Can you shed some light on the study you conducted about, which was based on vocalization of Indian wolves?
Yeah. So that was that very initial study. And I recorded the wolves in India, or in central India, and then on the Tibetan plateau, and kind of compared them to other wolves of the world. And we did find we started kind of seeing also that like individual wolves had kind of different howls, that different packs looked like, they were kind of grouping together. But our sample size was really small. And that's where kind of Sogato came in, and he recorded like a lot more howls. And we worked together on a paper where we identified the different types of vocalizations in Indian wolves. And we found they communicate with 5 different vocalizations. Like they use howls, they use barks, they whimper, social squeak. So identifying all these different ways they communicate And then, yeah, and then Sogato also found, like, he looked at how to identify individual wolves based off of howls. And he found, like, pretty good accuracy. I think, like, around 75% accuracy to identify individuals. So it's out there still, you know, maybe wolves can, when they hear howls, they can tell, like, who's howling. They can kind of, like humans with the voices, like, you know, you could, if you hear a voice, you're like, oh, okay, like, that's this person.
Yeah.
So that's kind of exciting work that he, like, just finished recently.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you. Lauren, if you have 5 minutes, can I take in some questions which the viewers have submitted?
Yeah, sure.
Amazing. Okay. I'll just shoot them across. So Prathamesh Gosavi has asked, what made you interested in studying about wolves?
Oh, good question. Yeah, I surprisingly, like, how, like, a lot of times when you're a kid, you have, like, a favorite animal. And, like, my favorite animal was a wolf. So I really liked wolves, like, middle school. And then I got more interested in just, like, general conservation, like ecology, and like evolutionary biology. So I studied a bunch of different things. But yeah, and then when I heard about the Indian wolf, like these wolves in India, and they're wolves, which I was super excited about. And then they were like this really interesting evolution question. And they were endangered, so like significant conservation implications. And all those three kind of, I was like, okay, like this is something that I was like really excited about.
Amazing.
So that's how, yeah.
Wow. That also answers a question asked by Sanchit More, who had asked, why did you take up wolves for your research and not any other canid or ferret? I think that answers that question as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wolves
Yeah.
are just like
And
in India.
sorry?
Oh, wolves are just like, they're like, to study this evolution of wolves, like these questions in like this area, India and Pakistan, like is the most interesting place, like to study to me. So yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. So Sanchit has also asked, what do you think about the term alpha? Is it a myth?
I think
Though he's also said that though Dr. Meck has used this terminology in early work.
yeah, I'm not like super caught up on all the different terms. But I mean, I think like for wolves, like they do have kind of these pack leaders, the breeding pairs, which are called alpha female, alpha male. So yeah, so I do think like there is that role in the packs that each wolf plays a role in a pack, and there is the role of being the breeding pair, and like kind of there is like a leadership role that wolves play, like certain wolves play in the pack. So I think the alpha term, like maybe it's okay, maybe it's changing, but I do think that what that term refers to is there in like wolf packs.
Right. Yeah, so it refers to the breeding pair basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Just taking one or two more questions quickly.
Yeah.
Thanks. I think you've answered some of them already. Just looking for some more interesting ones. Okay, this one's from my teammate Rohit Joshi. Hi Lauren, did you notice any noticeable difference in the sizes of the packs of wolves from India, Pakistan, or the Arctic wolves?
Ooh, that is a very interesting question. So I think that I don't think it's exactly tested, but I think a good hypothesis or thought is that like wolves in India and maybe in the Arctic, their prey is a lot smaller, like, and it's kind of resource scarce. Like Arctic wolves, I think they eat a lot of lemmings and hares and stuff like that. Whereas like with wolves in Yellowstone, like wolves in Yellowstone can have really huge packs, and they eat like elk, which need maybe a lot of individuals to take down such a big prey, or even moose. Like moose are huge. Whereas like Indian wolves, they eat black buck, which are quite smaller. So there could be, a hypothesis too that like if wolves, have the smaller prey, maybe they don't need such a big pack. And like maybe in like resource poor places, it's harder to find food for, 15 wolves or like 10 wolves in a pack. So it might, like, that would be cool to study. I mean, more and look into like if wolves in the Arctic and Indian wolves have smaller packs than what you find in like Yellowstone. And I think that's probably true. Yeah.
All right. All right, I think that sums it up. Thank you so much, Lauren, for answering so many questions from all of us. And you've been amazing with all of the work which you've been doing. And we really hope that you come down soon, sometime maybe to India on field, and we get to be with you on field soon.
Oh my God, I would love that. Like studying these wolves, like especially with the pandemic, I'm just like working on my computer and like writing papers, but like real motivation is like seeing the wolves and like going out. So yeah, that's something I'm hoping to do.
Amazing.
Visit. Yeah.
All right. I think we can end the session now, if that's okay, Lauren.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good
Bye.
day and take care.
Yep, you too. Bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye.